What's happening?
Remy!
The last time I was here, there were tall seats.
That's
tall
true.
chairs that were right in the middle. I was one of the first people to have done this.
We've reorganized it.
Right when you started the build.
Well, you came and we saw the way
Hi.
that you looked on stage, and we were like, I don't know. But
No, we don't like it
fix
so much.
this, Yeah.
It's a little uncomfortable.
Wasn't? I think it was uncomfortable.
No, it was nice.
Neil, let's talk about this. This is your first foray into fiction, and it's going to be a series, right? And this is the first book of.
It's the first of 4 books. I sold it as a series to Little Brown, the company, and yeah, it started off as a children's picture book. Was kind of the initial idea. I had written an autobiography that had a weird structure called, it was a choose your own adventure autobiography about my life. And so I was sort of had dabbled in the book world. And then we read to our kids all the time. I'm a voracious reader. I grew up, my first job was at a bookstore in New Mexico. And I've just always loved books. I love the notion of them. I'm currently working on a series of unfortunate events based on Lemony Snicket, which is 13 books, all about the love of books. So I'm in a literary headspace, and I thought it would be cool to write a book. Our kids are 7, Gideon and Harper, they just turned it, so they're just starting to learn to read. And so what we read to them are mostly picture books. And so that was kind of the initial idea, is to take this notion that kids who like magic, because I love magic, but I love magic not wizards and sorcery and other universes, but magic, cards and
actual
coins,
trickery,
and
yeah.
Illusions, Vegas. I love it, and I thought it would be cool to honor magic in a book, but also as a picture book, because I thought that would be cool. And I actually think that people who like magic feel in a weird way that they're nerdy in some way, that magic somehow is dumb and cheesy. And I think magic is the opposite of that. So I thought there was an opportunity for a little bit of empowerment. But I was in picture book world. So I thought it would be a 40, 50-page picture book where kids who are misfits, who love magic, but don't realize that they think that it's not cool, join forces and realize that, oh, with my knowledge of escapology and your knowledge of levitation, we can actually work together to save the cat from the tree. The end. Picture book. Go to bed, kids.
Book 1.
But it turned out to have, that was a cool idea, and we were sort of pitching it, and then we thought, well, what if it was for a bit of an older demographic? So this is sort of middle grade. It's about 280, 70 pages or something. It allows us to fill out the world a little bit more. So.
Did you read it to your children while you were writing it?
No.
No.
No, and I don't know. I felt a little bit of pressure about that because I'm writing towards something that's a little bit ahead of them.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that by the time they're 8 or 9, that they will be reading this and thinking it's funny and thinking it's poignant and thinking it's sharp, but they're not there yet. So
when they start reading it at 8 or 9, are you going to be that that's Daddy's book, so be nice with how you feel about it?
I'll just be over their shoulder going, "That's hilarious."
Isn't that great? Isn't that a great part? Don't you love that?
Who wrote this? It's a gem. No, I don't know. I put a fair amount of pressure on myself in that regard because writing. As an actor, you act and you're a color on a palette that a bunch of other people are a part of. The director, the editor, the test screenings and all that. And you end up seeing a movie or a show later and you see what it is. When you're writing something, your thumbprint is more a part of it. And when you're writing something for kids, especially at that age, I have the opportunity to write about things that could be subtly important to them. Like diversity and inclusion and thinking that you're powerful when you're weak, realizing that if you work together that you're stronger than if you're on your own, or that independence is important if you are on your own. Like I think when you're at that age, you're looking towards a written word that will motivate you, that will support you. And so there was a little bit of that, of trying to write towards a group of kids that don't look the same, that don't come from the same backgrounds, that have different ways of talking, and that when they join together, they can stop a bad guy who runs a carnival and wants to steal diamonds. So I don't get too heavy-headed about it. It's still pretty easy reading, but within it, there's teach-a-tricks. I teach some magic tricks within it. There's some hidden Easter egg code stuff.
When did you learn your first magic trick?
Well, I'm old. So I first started watching Doug Henning magic specials in the 70s, David Copperfield specials in the 80s. I lived in a small town in New Mexico. My first job was in a bookstore. And we would drive up to Albuquerque, which was about 3 hours north, and a larger town had a mall. And at the mall, there was a magic shop called Fool's Paradise. It's a great name for a magic shop. And I
love that malls always had just enough real estate to have a store like every mall had what is that store doing here?
It was an arcade.
Yeah.
And there was maybe some kind of magic gag trick shop. And I was there, face pressed against the glass. You'd actually push a button and this little conveyor belt would move all these little shelves and you could see coin tricks and then card packet tricks and I just loved it and I wanted to know how everything was done and I would ask, what is this? And they'd show me the trick and it was amazing. And then I couldn't know how it was done until I paid for it.
What was your...
So I would save my allowance and then I'd go back and I would buy 4 packet tricks about different coins, and then on the ride back home, I would sit in the back seat and open them up, and with the trick, you get the tricks that you need, the coins that you need, but you also get this piece of paper that explains the effect, that it says what the secret is, and sort of the patter of how to perform it. So it was good for a quasi-wannabe actor kid. And I would just sit there and collect stuff, and I would try coins for a bit, and I'd try cards for a bit, and then I'd try doves. I had doves when I was a kid.
Doves?
Yeah, sure, who didn't? A lot of people didn't. They're really loud, doves. All the time.
So you had amazing parents that were willing to kind of, who were like, whatever you're in.
I mean, this is happening all the time. Go on.
Your parents that were like willing to kind of, okay, he's into this now. Let's take him as far as he wants to go with it.
I guess so. I mean, I think all kids have hobbies. And I think...
Doves, though, is like a real commitment.
Doves is a bit of a commitment. Agreed. I think they were hoping that would end quickly. Doves are cool. Their brains are so little that if you flip them upside down, they just kind of pass out. You can take a dove and hold it by its wings, and if you just hold it upside down and you let its head rest back, it just stops moving.
Is that how you hide them in the trick?
No. But I'm saying you can then move your hand like this, and the dove will just be laying there. And when you flip it back up, it kind of wakes up and keeps on going. Doves are hilarious. So I had doves for a minute. I did kids' birthday parties in Ruidoso, New Mexico.
Wow.
But baseball cards are a cool hobby, but you wind up with a drawer full of baseball cards that are in little sleeves that you can't touch because it devalues them from excellent to very good. Comic books the same way.
Which you can't really do much with when you get older, though, and you're at a cocktail party. You can't go, oh, I've got a baseball card back at my house. It's pretty great. But as an adult at a cocktail party, you can go,
Yeah, I guess fair enough. Cool. I mean, the nice thing about magic as a hobby is that you can study the histories of it. You can appreciate the people that did it before you, which I think generationally is good. You can learn the actual physical skills of a double lift or a palm of a coin, but you can also then build up an act, work on performing in front of people publicly, which is nice, and then it begets a skill that you're able to then use to impress others, I guess. Yeah.
Or become like a con man.
Or a con man. Well, that's interesting because this is Magic Misfits is a series of 4 books, like 4 suits in the deck. So this is diamonds that we're dealing with here, and the protagonist in this is Carter Locke. He was an orphan who was raised by his uncle, and his uncle taught him magic by way of stealing wallets, pickpocketing, 3-card Monty, stuff that you can't win, which is a lot of magic. A fair amount of magic is that kind of, the magician's a prick, and will say, pick a card, wrong, it's here. Is it in this hand or this hand? Wrong, it's over here. And I think it kind of can get a bad rap in that regard. Carter certainly thought so. He left his uncle and jumped on a train and winds up in this town called Mineral Wells, sort of a seaport kind of town, and doesn't know where to go or how to belong. Meets these different kids who also all tell him to go to a magic shop owned by this man who's upside down named Mr. Vernon, and he is sort of the mentor throughout the thing. So he's sort of Carter's journey within book 1 is that he learns to appreciate that magic isn't for nefarious purposes, but that magic can actually be done for good, and that can be done for enjoyment, And then throughout, there's a narrator, third-person narrator my first-person narrator that takes the reader out at certain points, teaches them tricks. So there's 3 or 4 teacher tricks within the book, and there's some codes within the book, some Easter egg stuff beyond it, so that you can read it more than once. I got to pretend like I was 8 or 9 again and write a book that I would like to read.
Yeah, what was it like plotting the book out, and what was your process?
I have a production company called Prediction Productions, so we sit and brainstorm about different ideas of different things we want to do in various venues, whether it be theater. I have a show that I'm producing here called In and of Itself that's at Union Square that's great, and acting stuff or directing stuff, and we thought this book idea would be good. So once we got it there, we started getting the big beats out of what the characters are and their backstories, and then it suddenly kind of takes on a life of its own. I wanted it to be teachable, but not so teachable that seems like its only intention. I wanted it to be mainstream enough that you could see it existing in its own world without feeling like I'm trying to sell it to someone to make a movie out of it, which is not my intention at all.
But if you could, I mean, if someone wants to make a movie of it.
It's weird that you say that, because now that conversation starts happening, because as your book is coming out, then people are interested in it as an idea. But that wasn't the intention, so I don't know what the answer to that is. I'm kind of waiting to see what people's responses are, because I think it would make a good series, maybe, movie, maybe. Would it be animated? Would it be live action? And then I slap myself and say, cart before the horse, dude. You've written a book. Let's focus on the book. Which I really am. I'm happy it's happening now, to be honest. Because due to a series of unfortunate events, timing, the only time I was really able to promote it was now, because we're on our Christmas break. And as it so happens, it's kind of a good time to buy Christmas presents. So it actually works out well for wanting to buy the book for kids.
So each book will be a different card suit, you
Correct.
said. Now, is each book going to be a different character's story, a different character's main story?
Correct. So now that we know all of the characters in Magic Misfits 1, which is about Carter, then book 2, which I just finished writing, is about Layla, and that's going to be hearts. And then there's going to be book 3, which will be about spades, and book 4 will be about clubs. And
you do a Joker book?
A joke? Oh, that's an interesting thing. An addendum joker.
The card that you're supposed to throw away.
We have a special Target edition where I had to write an extra chapter because it's Target and they make you do stuff like that. And it's about Izzy and Ollie, who are twins. They're sort of Borscht Belt comedian twins that say a bunch of silly things. So, but yeah, and in each book, I'm changing the sentence structure a little bit so that right now Carter's a bit gruff, right? He thinks that magic is for bad. So a lot of the words are he spat, he said gruffly, he, it's all sort of staccato words. And I think the Hearts book with Layla, where her journey is of one more of longing, will be a little more floral and a bit more heartfelt. So it'll be she relished, she thought about longingly. So I'll try to use words that kids can use in a vocabulary way that will maintain the same characters, maintain the same environment, but be from a different narrator's perspective.
I like it.
Thanks.
You're also in a movie that's coming out soon, Alexander Payne's new film with Matt Damon. It's called Downsizing.
Downsizing, yeah. Have you seen it?
I have not seen it. I can't wait to see it.
It's cool.
I'm very excited. I love Alexander Payne.
He's great.
But let's take a quick look at a clip, and then we'll talk about it.
Okay, right here?
Yeah, right here. We're going to sit here awkwardly while it plays.
Oh, fun.
Like 2.5 minutes.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Jeff Lanowski, Senior Product Specialist and happy homeowner here at Leisureland Estates. You having a good time? Yeah. So, what do you think of my place? Just wait till you see what's inside.
Jeff, you've got to stop inviting guests over without telling me. I finally just got in the tub to relax after such a busy day. First, I took a tennis lesson and had a massage.
Nice.
And then after a gourmet lunch with the girls, well, we couldn't help ourselves, so we popped into that new Loger jewelry store downtown.
Uh-oh, Loger, what's that gonna cost me?
I was really good. Just another diamond bracelet.
Just a diamond bracelet? That doesn't sound like you.
You're right. I don't like to break up a set, so I got matching diamond earrings and a matching diamond necklace.
How much, Laura?
Oh, but Jeff, they look so good on me.
I said how much?
$83.
$83? Why, that's practically our food budget for 2 whole months.
Hey, a round of applause, everybody. Let's hear it.
So Downsizing is an interesting movie. I'm interested to see what everyone thinks of it, because Alexander Payne is known for doing relatively simplistic ideas and then thinking through the thought processes behind it really, really well. A guy needs to go on a journey on a tractor or something, you know, and what that entails. So on paper, it seems like Downsizing would be more comedic about what Honey, I Shrunk the Kids style. What happens when you shrink and you're tiny like this? But in the world that we live in right now, it's a very interesting conversation, I think, of what happens when you're 50, 60 grand that you make a year, that you're struggling to pay for all of the stuff that your debt. What happens if you were 5 inches tall? That same money would then suddenly be worth $11.7 million. You can have the house that you want, everything you want to eat. You never have to worry about money again. Would you do it? And who would do it if you couldn't go back to being large again? And that's sort of a decision that you would have to make. So Matt Damon clearly makes said decision, and you have to, and you sort of watch him contemplate the ramifications of a decision like that. And who else would choose yes, and who else would choose no, and why, and what would happen in a world that exists in.
There's also the idea, and I hope that I haven't seen the movie, unfortunately. I'm really looking forward to it, but it seems like it also explores that the world is, in a way, sort of doing that to people already, sort of making those much larger and others much smaller, and an inequality between there's no in between anymore.
There's definitely class divides depending on the nation that you're in. In America, not as much as other places, but there's certainly like an upstairs, downstairs vibe that happens in a lot of places, and it's a good conversation to have, and I think no one films those conversations better than Alexander Payne, so I'm super stoked that it's coming out.
What's it like doing Alexander Payne scenes? Because they're a very specific tone. I think of Election, I think of Citizen Ruth, obviously, because Laura Dern is right there.
Sure.
They walk a fine line.
It was hard as an actor for me because I was a fan of his, and I like the subtlety that he has and that he gets out of his performers. But what was required of me was to be, as you saw, kind of infomercial actor, where every line I said, I had to gesture with my hands. And then my inflection had to be a little bit like this. And I felt like I was doing terrible acting for Alexander Payne the whole
Finish
time.
every take like too much?
Too much, right? I did. And thankfully it was Laura Dern, because she's great and he knows her. And so we actually hung out the day before we filmed the scene. And we talked and had drinks, and we kind of came up with this random backstory. Because theoretically what you're seeing is what the full-size people get to see as part of the pitch when they go to Leisureland. So we theoretically do this show 8-9 times a day. So then it was fun to play with her and say, well, how long have we been working here? And are we really friends? And are we really a couple? Or are we just actors? So none of that's in the movie. None of that was even written in the movie. We were just playing around. But
it's the stuff that makes you feel comfortable going into a scene the next day when you have to
and
do
not
it.
just feel like you're doing sham wow acting. Yeah.
And sitting in your head going, why am I doing this? What do you want me to do?
Please hire me for another job where I don't have to just do this all the time.
You're very well known for, I think, celebrating holidays very, very well.
Am I? I guess Halloween. I love Halloween.
You do love Halloween.
We do a good Halloween picture with our family every year. That's fun.
Do you do a Christmas card photo?
We do a Christmas card photo. I don't know that that's like it's for public consumption. We do it for our friends and stuff because it's a lot easier to do that now. You send a picture to a place like
it's just a regular photo.
Or something. Yeah, it's just a regular photo.
You don't do like a candy cane land or anything like that with the kids.
No.
Just like a couple sweaters.
No, we did. I love Halloween. It's my favorite holiday. I think it's fun to be scared when you know you're going to be safe. I think it's fun to have costume parties. I think it's fun to play make-believe for a hot minute, and that's when you're able to do that. I think the holidays in December, the Christmas holidays, are or what have you is much more personal. I love being in New York for the holidays. We lived a long time in Los Angeles, and as much as I love LA, it's just what's great about it being warm is that when it's winter, it's warm, and that's kind of weird because it's suddenly December 17th and it's still 76 degrees.
Here it is, actually.
This year has been pretty temperate.
Yeah.
But here you can go to the Rockettes show, and you can go skate at the Rockefeller Center, and you can walk around in a sweater and a scarf, and yeah, I love the traditions of family.
What traditions do you and your family have for?
We usually
for
go out
Christmas?
to dinner on Christmas Eve night.
Chinese.
No, we go to Bobo, Mario Batali's restaurant, because David, my husband, worked there as one of his first jobs in New York before he started doing his own thing and now has a cookbook in the works, which is awesome. And they do on Christmas Eve a thing called Feast of the Seven Fishes, which is a traditional Italian feast for good luck for the harvest of northern Italy's fish. And so our kids are surprisingly adventurous eaters, and so we dine the Feast of the Seven Fishes on Christmas Eve and then wander around that area and get all the sugar out of them. And then we go and, hope Santa didn't give them coal again.
Again.
No,
Have you ever wanted to put coal in the stocking just as a joke?
just to see what happened. Have I wanted to put coal in the stocking?
Yeah.
I've asked Santa to never put coal in the stocking.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, I get. Sorry.
How dare you, sir? No, I thankfully no coal yet.
Yeah, don't do it. My dad did it to me one year.
Did he really?
He thought it'd be funny.
And did it traumatize you?
I started crying. He was like, no, I'm sorry. Here are all the gifts. I'm sorry. My mother was like, what the hell are you doing, Randy? Like,
I think all of that stuff is, I don't know. When kids are really, really small, it's hard to engage with them too much because you're just an arbiter and you're trying to stop them from damaging themselves or other things, and you're just constantly saying, don't touch that, whatever. And then it turns a corner, and then they start to be actual people. So this year, now that they're 7 and they're starting to read, they're more self-sufficient than ever. So when Gideon says what he wants for Christmas is to be able to give money to people that don't have any money, and that's not from me telling him a month before this is what he's supposed to say. It's one of those nice moments where you think, oh, they're actual people that have souls and that have good morals sometimes, and that they're nice. So it's weird. Yeah.
Did you cry when he said that?
No. That would be weird, wouldn't it?
I would bawl I would be like, I did it. Full success.
Honestly, I wanted to let him know that what I thought was that what he said affected me in a nice way without being overly emotional about it. So I said, "Oh, that is the nicest thing. I can't believe that you would say that. Instead, why don't you write that check to me for all the stuff I pay for you?" No, just kidding. So they make stuff and we donate to charity, and Santa still comes. It's a really good time of year. The elves on the shelves are everywhere. Do you know these elves on the shelf? You don't know this thing? So this is a thing. Each kid has an elf on the shelf. It's a little elf. It's about this big, and it sits on a shelf sometimes. And around December, it shows up, and then it disappears, and it goes and talks to Santa, and it is observing kids to make sure that they're being good or bad. These elves have started appearing in the beginning of December. And I don't know, all of a sudden we'll come downstairs, and they'll be in a whole different place, just sitting there. Like little Cupid dolls. Could be a good horror movie, to be honest, now that I think about it. But yeah, elves on the shelves are all over the place.
Do you point out the elves if
No, I
any
don't.
of the kids are,
They find them before I do. Oh. I'm startled by them.
Elves are weird, right? Yeah.
Little elves that are stuffed animals that move around in the middle of the night. Now, that's kind of weird.
Let's get
Oh, and they have daggers. Did I say that? They have daggers.
They're the mixture of Halloween and Christmas elves. Let's get some right here.
Hi.
Hi.
What did you find most difficult about writing a book, and how did you overcome it?
The writing process is tricky because I tend to... I imagine that when I get older, I'll probably direct more than I'll act, and certainly than I'll write. And so as the director, you sort of come in and make things the best right away. Like your job is to see a scene with actors and then fix it. As a writer, your job is to come up with stuff initially. And so it's best to come up with stuff that you know is not going to be the finished product, but to just purge it and come up with it and then rewrite later. That's a little bit tricky for me. It's hard to not want to write a great first page right away. So it's hard to sit there and just say, F it, and then just write, and then deal with the mediocrity later. But also kind of a good lesson. It's good to actually stand up there and do it, and then you can always fix things later.
Next question.
Hi, Neil. As a magician and a big fan, I love what you've done for the magic community and really wish that book was available when I was younger. How do you make time for projects like In and of Itself, which is amazing, and being president of the Magic Castle when you're so busy doing the movies and the TV? We really appreciate what you do, but how do you make time for it?
Thank you so much for saying that and for doing magic. What kind of magic do you do?
Comedy magic, a little bit of close-up, and I'm also transitioning into doing a little stand-up as well.
Nice. Comedy magic's good. You can work nightclubs.
Yep.
And cruise ships. Always fun. I've been given and blessed with a unique opportunity to act as well as host certain things. And I think that was fortuitous because when I was on How I Met Your Mother, the Tony Awards was on CBS. And so they were looking for hosts of that. And since I was on the network, I was able to be considered for the host of that. And in doing so, I relished the opportunity to, in P.T. Barnum style, really convince people to go out and see a Broadway show, to honor the fact that these people who are ensemble dancers, who are crushing it physically, doing the most amazing Cirque du Soleil kind of things 8 times a week, are not making a ton of money, but doing it for only 1,000, 1,100 people a night. That's not a lot. You do a TV show, you do this, many more people than 1,100 are watching this right now, and these people are crushing themselves, right? So I think there's something about magic, about circuses, about Sleep No More, about experiential things that you can and should do because it's just more rewarding. So when I know someone like Derek Delgadio who has a one-man show that is just, it's 70 minutes, intermissionless, a fantastic rumination monologue about his life, and through in that there's 5 effects or 5 or 6 effects that he does that are just unbelievable. And it's not, for my next trick, here's a deck of cards, it's folded into it in a way that it just leaves people astounded. It talks about identity. You go into In and of Itself, this show, and there's a giant wall with all these little cards that say, I am, on the top, and then in the bottom is different things. A dentist, a firstborn child, an extrovert, a class clown. And when you go to your seat, before you go, you pick a card. And that's kind of what you do as a pre-show, and you sit down. That card will come back within the show. And it's interesting to see why people choose the cards that they choose. And Derek uses that pre-show at the end of his show in a way that's flabbergasting. And for me as a person, as an actor, as a producer, to be able to encourage people to go experience that, having experienced it and seeing how like truly amazing it is, I will do that forever. So I love hosting the Tonys and saying, go see a show. I love producing In and of Itself and saying that. I love having a book where kids can learn magic tricks and then want to go to the library and look in the magic section and take the extra step to learn how to do something. Like, I think that stuff is, I'd rather talk about that than politics.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you teach your kids magic?
A
Do
little
they know
bit. They're still a little young. Once they know how something works, they just want to tell everyone how it works, which I get. But I think you have to be a little bit older and appreciate wanting to keep the secrets. Plus, I can lord the fact that I magic over them. They think that I have magical powers right now, and I can use that to my advantage a lot, yeah. When they're fighting over something and it magically vanishes, that's the end of the conversation. We don't have to go any further than that.
I think we have time for a couple more questions right here.
Hi.
Hi.
If you were able to write fiction for young adults, what would you center it around?
Right now, fiction for young adults. Well, I'm assuming you're talking a little bit older than Magic Misfits, because that's an easy plug.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I was about to.
Magic Misfits, young adults. I'm very into escape the rooms right now. Have you been on those escape rooms? They're fantastic. They're fantastic. They're cropping up everywhere. Have you been to these escape rooms?
No, I've heard a little bit about it.
You go in and it's 60 minutes, the clock starts, and you're in this room. And sometimes you're in a hospital room, and sometimes you're in a study of an old detective, and sometimes it's a gumshoe, and you just have to find drawers that are unlocked and open them, and there's a thing, and there's a box, and there's a lock, and you have to find the code to the lock, and you have an hour to escape the room. It's very fun. So I'd probably do some random fictionalized version of escape the room stuff. Maybe a horror version of that, where you like really have to escape the room. That's a little old adult. That's not very young adult, but that'd be fun.
Escape
the doom.
The doom.
Because it's horror, right?
No, I got that. Yeah.
Just made it.
But what's the doom?
The doom of impending
Of the
doom
room.
of about to being killed because you're in an escape the room.
How many times have you seen Sleep No More?
That's a great question. I've probably seen Sleep No More 6 or 7 times. I've been in it 3 times.
You've been in it.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It's a very cool sociological experiment to watch people watch you, and everyone's wearing a mask, so they're anonymous, but they're present, and they're observing you do things. I find that very fascinating.
Did people know it was you performing Sleep No More? Oh, wow. When was that?
I was the porter, and did the porter one-on-one. Sleep No More, does anyone not know what Sleep No More is? A couple people. So Sleep No More is an immersive experience that happens down in Chelsea here in New York, and they've taken a space, they turned it into a hotel called the McKittrick Hotel. There's about 100 rooms, and you put on a mask, and you go in an elevator, and there's multiple floors with multiple rooms, and you can wander around, open drawers. You're not told to go anywhere. And these rooms are fully realized. And then every once in a while, someone will come stumbling in, their head bloodied, and you're not sure why. And it turns out that Shakespeare's Macbeth is also happening simultaneously, but a weird David Lynchy version of Macbeth. So there's no dialogue, it's not Shakespearean, but you can follow Macduff, or you can follow the witches, and they'll sometimes grab you by the hand and take you into a one-on-one experience that no one else gets. They'll lock a door. You watch people have these interpretive dances together, but it's whatever you want it to be. If you want to stay in one room and have everything happen to you, that's your night. If you want to follow one person because you just are obsessed with them, you can follow them all the way around. You can just kind of go freeform. It's kind of fantastic. So I love all of that stuff. So
And if you go, don't miss the orgy. Find the orgy.
I mean, that's the directive in life, isn't it?
The first time I went to Sleep No More after I left, someone was like, "Did you see the orgy?" And I was like, "What orgy?" And I had to go back and
a rave.
find the orgy. It is.
It's a bit of a rave.
An orgy rave with like a minotaur, I believe,
There's
right?
a minotaur with showing his hee-haw.
It's the best.
A naked
Sleep No More is the
minotaur.
best.
We're really selling this show fantastically well. I'm glad Magic Misfits is on the wall behind me.
I think we have time for one more question.
Please.
About Magic Misfits, please, not Minotaurs.
It doesn't have to be. What's up?
Oh, hi, Neil.
Hi.
So this question's about magic in general. So I
Cool.
know that you're super big into magic and your kids as well. So I was wondering, do you perform magic tricks to your kids? And if so, which tricks do they like the most?
I found that performing magic to younger kids is a bit of an opiate. That if you make something vanish, then they just keep grabbing other things and putting them in front of you and telling you to make them vanish. Or if you produce a coin behind the ear, then they don't think that you've done a clever thing. They think that they can make money appear behind their ears. And so I've been there when that same gleeful child is crying because there's no more coins coming out of their ears. So you have to be a little cautious with the magic with the youngsters. So I'll do magic here and there, and again, I kind of just lord it over them in theory. They think I'm magical right now, which is fantastic, and so I will just let them know that if they don't go to bed soon, they never know what's going to happen. There could be magical ramifications, that if they're not careful, that Beyblade that they're arguing over may very well vanish forever. You know what I mean? I can use these ideas for now, but They like when I make money appear. That's gonna come back to haunt me.
Neil, Magic Misfits is on shelves now. People can pick it up as a
at
Christmas
bookstores
gift.
anywhere. There's a special Target edition as an extra chapter. Did I say that already? You
did.
Oh, good. I said it twice. No, it's true. I'm proud of it in a way that I haven't been before because I don't get any response for this yet, you know? Because the book just came out, so unless you're a speed reader, you're still probably reading said book. So I'm not sure. I'm starting a book tour today, and I'm going to go around the country a little bit to LA and Seattle and Chicago and do some town hall sort of Q&As and stuff. But I'm anxious to hear what people think of the book. I wrote it, and now it's out, but people are slowly reading it, so I want to know what they think of it by the time it's all said and done. It's not like a movie where you can sit and watch it for 2 hours and then say what you thought of it. There's no Rotten Tomatoes for children's books.
Well, it's also not like with a movie you experience, you're a part of that movie, but you're not the sort of author of that movie. You know?
True.
You can have an opinion of a movie that you're in.
And I think books are so important, and certain books have had such an important place in my life. When I was visiting my family in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and one year, and it was the year that I think Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix had just come out. Maybe The Goblet of Fire. It was a giant book that had come out, and everyone was commenting on how giant it was. And I was waiting to fly back to Los Angeles, and I was sitting there watching this kid who was tiny. I didn't even think he could read. He was this cute little kid holding, in the airport, this tome of a book, The Goblet of Fire, like 1,000 pages, so proudly. You know, he was walking through the airport with this giant book that for anyone else I think would be super intimidating to read that many. I would almost not want to read it because it had so many pages. And so I just love the notion that people want to read. I like paying it forward in that way. So, I don't know.
And in and of itself, people can go see it right now. It's on.
They can indeed.
Yeah.
inandofitself.com.
And Downsizing is in theaters, I think on the 22nd, right?
Yes.
Limited. There we go.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Probably limited December 22nd, then it will expand to more theaters, or is it nationwide right away?
If you say so.
That's what I think it is. That's what I think it is. Neil Patrick Harris, everybody. Give him a round of
thanks,
applause.
everyone. Good.